Thank you for tuning in to another episode of This Freakin' Show, the weekly podcast with a little bit of something and a whole lot of nothing. I'm your host, Travesty, and alongside me is...
Awkward Colin.
And Geekcast Joe.
Guys, I know every time we start the show, we usually start off with, hey, how you doing, how everything's going, but I'm way too excited about this show, about what we're going to do for it, to even do that. So if it's all right with you guys, I kind of just want to jump into what we're doing tonight.
Absolutely.
That's fine with me.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight our show is purely zombie related. We're going to be talking zombie movies, zombie shows. We're going into the history of zombies. We're going to be talking about news related zombie incidents. And we're actually going to talk to a close personal friend of mine who is, I'm going to call a zombie fanatic, who actually kind of has like a zombie survivalist plan set forth for his life. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to you Graham Parker. Graham, how you doing tonight?
What's going on, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, I'm here.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I'm good to hear that. Obviously, to give you a quick introduction, you know Colin already.
Yes, sir.
And the other gentleman on with us this evening is my stepbrother, Joey.
Hey, nice to meet you.
You too, man.
So real quick, Graham, before we jump into, the zombie survivalist, why don't I tell people a little bit about yourself, who you are and such?
Well, first and foremost, I am a father.
Good answer. Strong start.
Yeah. They kind of take over your life, so there's not a whole lot other to me than being a father. Like you said, Travis, I like zombies. I'm pretty much a fanatic about zombies and Jeeps. Those are my things.
Excellent.
Good to hear. Now, what is it about the zombies that you really got interested in? The whole concept of zombies itself.
Actually, it started off way back when my oldest daughter was first born. We got stuck without power for a couple days during a snowstorm right before Christmas. And I just started kind of like preparing from there. And I was, trying to get prepared for like any situation that would happen. And then I had been talking to a buddy of mine, and it was like, well, if we started prepping for the zombie apocalypse, we'd be prepared for anything that could possibly happen. So it kind of like went from there, and then it became an obsession: books, movies, TV shows. I mean, all of it, really.
Sweet.
Just kind of, it's entertaining to me, and it's kind of, I would say it's pretty serious. I might need help.
A little addiction there?
A little bit, because it gives me an excuse to be like, oh, babe, can I buy this? We really need this. I could use this. I have a million things I could do with this. You should let me buy it. You should see my Amazon wish list. It's incredible.
I have a friend who keeps a trench hawk in his car.
Just one?
He has other things there too. But yeah, just one trench hawk.
I actually had a buddy of mine forge a Warhammer / battle axe with a 60-inch handle with a mace pommel at the bottom.
Now you're talking.
So yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of blunt and edged objects or weapons, however you want to put that.
Sweet.
But yeah, the trench hawk, it's a good choice. Multi-purpose, you can throw it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good tool. It's a good weapon.
Yep, it's got a chopping edge and then like a stabbing edge. So.
Okay, so it's got so basically when you throw it one way or the other, whatever it's being thrown at, when it gets hit, it's gonna hurt.
Oh yeah, yeah, it'll split your melon either way.
Yeah, those are fun.
So, based on movies and everything, is the accurate way to kill a zombie by a head blow?
Well, I'm going to be honest here with you, since the idea of the whole zombie thing has not actually been put into practice yet, or, not that we've seen on a grand scale. I'm going to say yes, only because it makes perfect sense that you destroy the brain, you destroy the center of everything in a body. You know, it won't be able to function or, you know, do what it needs to do.
Well, what about cockroaches?
I don't really know, man. You can nuke those little guys and they're still here. So
I heard that cockroaches can survive nuclear blast.
that's what I'm saying. They're like the Twinkie, man.
They're like,
I think they can only make it 10 days without their head, though. So
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, see, that's better than us because we really don't make 10 seconds
Yep.
without our head. So,
truth.
but I'm pretty sure they were designed like that was their evolution to be like that. As far as zombies, you know, if we're talking like zombie humans, you know, they lose their head. It's the same as, you know, an actual living, breathing human. You lose your head, you've lost all control. So you're not going to be breathing or talking or living.
Makes sense to me.
so enlighten me here. Where did the origin of the concept of zombies come from?
You know, I forgot. There was the original zombie movie was Night of the Living Dead, black and white movie, and I don't think they were like they were dead, but it was weird because they only wanted the brains. It's kind of like it's been a writer's thing for, you know, a long time. Originally, you know, you got the zombies when you created, or when people started writing about like vampires and such, you know, living dead, you know, vampires, you know, have to suck the blood to live. And then zombies just kind of went in from there. You know, they don't get the cool powers, they don't get to turn into bats. They're just kind of like, you know, army of the undead, like raised from the grave and eat and consume.
Okay.
I'm drawing a blank on who the guy was that created that.
Oh, dang it.
Max Brooks is pretty much the modern god for modern zombies. Ah, man, I'm trying to think of who the first zombie guy was.
For Night of the Living Dead? Romero.
Yeah.
Was
yeah. Yeah, George. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that would be him.
Yeah, that's my thing.
On a blank.
Joey has a vast knowledge of pretty much everything.
I would,
I've noticed that over
Jack of all
the
trades, master of none.
several episodes.
That's one of the big reasons Joey's definitely here with me, because if I start saying something stupid, Joey will give me that questionable. You mean this? And I'm like, of course I mean that. But I don't know. To kind of go off some information I'm looking up, it's saying that there are two different theories based on the origin of zombies. One is virus, and one is a curse. Now, which one do you believe is the true theory behind a zombie? Is it a virus, or could it be a curse?
I believe it's a virus.
What about you, Joey?
I'd have to agree.
Colin?
I'd definitely say it would be a virus too.
Or possibly a fungus. I think there's already like a fungus amongst ants that can control, like it gets into the ants' ecosystem and it makes them climb up onto a branch, and then the fungus sprouts from the ants and sends more spores out into the world, thereby furthering itself.
I've actually heard something like that.
Yeah, so I think either a fungus or a virus would be the two most likely, but probably a virus.
So I'm the only one that believes curse then?
Yeah,
It depends
probably.
I think
on
so.
the sense of curse. Or if you're talking like the original George Romero, like hell is full, and now it's just flooding onto Earth. I mean, it depends. It depends on your spirituality, I guess, and like what you want to believe the afterworld is. But you can't deny science currently in this time frame, because I mean, look at all the bioweapons that are going on, and I mean, just all that stupid stuff, like the weaponizing Ebola. Like, really? Like, these are why, if a zombie apocalypse happens, that's exactly why it's going to happen. I mean, if you look at I Am Legend, you know, they took a virus that's actually harmful to humans. They they were like, oh, well, we're going to give it a different driver and everything's going to be golden. No, it's not, because we weren't meant to mess with it, and now God is like, yeah, well, deal with it, have fun.
Well, one of the earliest zombie movies I know that I've watched, it was a very old movie called We Buried the Living, and the basis on that movie is there's a map, all the graves in the cemetery, and if you put a certain kind of pin on a certain kind of grave, that person comes to life. Now that person, to me, is considered a zombie, right? Anything undead is considered a zombie, correct?
Right.
Okay, so that would be curse related. Now, see, I could see that being more logical compared to. Now that I think about it, it actually kind of sounds. I'm gonna go with virus. So we all agree virus is the reason. Perfect.
Now you were talking about a pin.
Yeah.
Now,
Just like
you're talking about like a clothespin. Well, not like a clothespin.
Voodoo or something.
like basically, if you look at the concept of voodoo, there was a map on the wall in the who's the guy that deals with the graveyards?
Well, I believe that
Gravekeeper.
like the oldest recorded thing about zombies actually had to do with the voodoo religion, but they weren't the kind of, they weren't like, oh, brains or eat. They were kind of used as slaves.
Mm-hmm.
So
I would be more okay with that.
I want
like
to say
Fido.
Well, what's the name? What's the name of the people who take care of cemeteries? Grave something, or what are they called?
Gravekeeper.
I think
Caretakers?
gravekeepers.
Caretakers.
Caretakers works.
Yeah. So the guys in the caretakers building, there's just a map of all these cemetery, these plots, and it's just a push pin. And I think if he puts a red push pin in it, it comes to life.
Yeah, that sounds like voodoo, man.
Yeah, I mean, now obviously I retract my statement saying voodoo could be the real reason, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
Well, not to change the subject on my ignorance, but I was looking up some more information about this George Romero's guy. Do you know what his first paid directing job was?
No.
Nope.
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
No kidding.
Really?
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
It says that his first paid directing job was Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Romero says that this project somehow inspired him to pursue horror films.
Huh.
Well,
That's kind of interesting.
You know, I've seen the puppets on that show. I could totally see the connection.
oh. Now I'm thinking about Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood differently. I don't think I can watch that with the kids now without thinking about zombies.
Nothing wrong with that.
Fuel the fire, guys. Fuel the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an interesting fact for you. There is a law in Haiti that makes it a crime to turn someone into a zombie.
That
Well,
would make
that
sense
is-
since they're big on voodoo.
Yeah, they're big on voodoo. It's like their natural or national religion.
Mm-hmm.
Article
Something like that.
249. Article 249 states if someone drugs another person, buries him as though he were dead, and then digs the person up and brings them back to life, it is still considered murder.
Huh. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
See, that's in Haiti. That's not here. So look,
Yeah. You know, there's. I think I saw a documentary on. I didn't watch the documentary, but I read the I watched the trailer for it on Netflix. There's a drug in Colombia that can do that, where you just you can blow it in someone's face. That's what she said, and
Nicely done.
and they'll be instantly under your control, basically, and they'll have no memory of it, and you can control them for years. There's one guy who is on a 26 or 27 year trip now with that drug.
I've never heard of that, but that is interesting, and I'm going to look that up tonight. Thank you for my lack of sleep tonight.
Yeah, no problem. I think it's called The Most Dangerous Drug in the World or something like that is the name of the documentary.
Okay. Is it on Netflix?
I think it is.
Yeah, I think I've seen it then, or I've seen it on the queue before.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Now that we just got done deciding it has to be a virus, that would be an interesting idea too, is if there were some kind of chemical weapon that influenced large groups of people to just attack with no
See, you
frontal
say
lobe
that out
action.
loud. That would be the exact reason why the Z-Poc would actually happen.
Right.
Someone somewhere was like, "Oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to know anything else about it, but I'm going to experiment it. I'm going to release it on these people. Let's see what happens from there."
What's the Z-Poc?
No, zombie apocalypse, man. Break it down. Z-Poc.
Oh, I thought it was like chicken pox.
Very, very similar. I'm told.
Okay.
You'll only get it once in your life.
Oh,
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, that's a great name for it. I've never heard it called that before, and I really like it.
I'm in a group, or I'm actually in a couple groups on Facebook that are like, they're pretty much populated by obsessed people like myself. That's why I feel so at home there, and that's what we break it down and call it. I can't spell apocalypse. I barely graduated high school, so it makes everything a lot easier for me. Z-Poc.
Yeah, I mean, well, it sounds, I don't know, cooler than like Z-Day or
Right.
actually saying the whole thing. I don't know. So I dig it. I'll probably make my friends say it now.
You're welcome.
So let's talk about zombie survival for a little bit. Then, let's say there was to be an outbreak. What's the first thing that you do?
First thing I do,
Well,
I'm going to take a nap while the National Guard does their thing, and when they're overrun, I'm going to be well rested to start popping shots with my 12 gauge.
okay. So let's alter the question a little. What's the first thing you do when a zombie comes to your door? Where would, if there was a apocalypse right now, would you be staying at home or would you go somewhere else?
I am absolutely not staying at home. See, all right, this is hours and hours of discussion with several like-minded individuals. Where I live is too urban an area. What would probably happen is I would break the windows of my house, leave the front door open, make my scatter stuff all over the yard, the backyard, make it look like my house has already been looted, and barricade the basement door, block up all the windows, and hope to ride it out for the initial part of the looting and the whatever would follow. And then as soon as things have gotten, more zombies have killed more people and, the bad people have decided that it's time for them to move on, I'm going to attempt to make it to a remote location that would be, prior to it stocked and ready to go. But at the same time, I have a lot of friends that are LEO and a lot of friends in the military, so I think I would be informed well ahead of time enough to be like, oh, well, this is what's going to go down. Even if it wasn't to go down, I'd just kind of be like, all right, everybody get in the Jeep, let's go. And go to a remote location that is defendable and hidden.
So when shit hits the fan, you standing alone or you finding a group?
See, that's the thing is, alone has its advantages, but so does being in a group. Actually, my group would be my family because I've started the kids out pretty young. We do a lot of we play with Nerf guns and we sword fight and stuff with the little Nerf swords and stuff.
Yeah.
But as much as it's a bonding experience, I get to learn with my kids and hang out with them. It's also kind of like training, my oldest, you give her the Nerf gun and I'll go hide in the house. She can clear the house. To her, it's a game, but it's a game she could, apply to real world scenario. If something was to come into the house that, it's not God forbid something happened to me. Hopefully my dogs would be able to take care of the problem before I got involved. But if something happened to me, I wouldn't be leaving them completely defenseless or, without some sort of skill set.
How long does it take your daughter to clear the house?
Under 3 minutes.
Damn.
You know how long it takes me to clear a house?
I don't know.
As long as it takes me to grab my keys and run out the fucking door.
guess that's a way to do it.
Well, see, your situation is a lot different than mine. You know, I got 2 dogs and 2 kids and a wife, and although my wife started off as anti self defense as you could get, you know, after 10 years of being together, 8 years of marriage, she's kind of like seeing things from my perspective now. Like, oh well, let's not go looking for trouble, but man, if trouble finds us, let's make it regret it. You know,
Oh.
and
No, I got a dog who doesn't know how to bark, so he ain't gonna save my ass. I got Colin, who is literally my only line of defense, but by the end of the day, the house is insured. So
Yeah,
Well-
buddy.
are you planning on using Colin as a meat shield?
Colin is gonna be my defense, just irregardless. So, I'll start freaking out. Colin will grab the gun. Colin will jump into action, and I'm out the back door.
See, that's a good friend right there. That's a good roommate.
That's right. Well, he won't know I'm gone.
That's the
Well,
only reason he
see, that
asked
just
me to be
makes
his
you-
roommate.
An a-hole. So
I'll tell him I'll get the back door and right out. Coops will come with me, though. I can't leave Coops behind. But no,
it's usually the quiet dogs you got to worry about, because I have a German Shepherd. She'll bark at you when you're on like the property line. She'll stop barking at you as soon as you're on the property, and she'll wait for you to come inside so she can bite the crap out of you.
oh, wonderful.
And the other one's sounds like a freaking gargoyle, so everyone's like, oh well, yeah, that house, nope, not going there.
So with you talking about how you guys play this game, this training game, if you will, when your kids get older, eventually, you know, they come to the point where they're able to use a real gun. Would you be turning in the Nerf guns to an actual gun to do some kind of training of that sort?
Absolutely. I grew up in a house that was military friendly. I've always been taught my entire life that guns were tools. They weren't weapons. They were tools. They were just mission specific tools. I mean, if you look at anything could be a weapon, a pencil, a hammer.
Right.
Those
I
are
think
cool.
Riddick uses the handle of a cup.
Yeah. See, exactly. It's the way you use them. I was taught, you know, a shotgun was the way to, you know, bring home some meat, defend yourself from snakes, you know, that kind of stuff. But, you know, my whole life I've been taught, you know, to respect law enforcement, and, you know, a lot of my family members are, you know, service members, and, you know, we never shied away from guns. Now, have my kids, when I come home from like the range or something, you know, I'll let my kids be there when I'm cleaning them, you know, and I'll answer their questions. I'd rather answer their questions, and I'd rather have them be upfront with me instead of like sneaking around. You see all these like news things in South Chicago, and like, oh, you know, a 3-year-old shoots another 3-year-old. Well, that's because they were curious. First off, the owner of the weapon just left a loaded weapon around. Yeah, that's not cool. Not cool at all. But a lot of these problems happen from people that are leaving these guns around a curious child. They can see movies, TV, whatever, but you have to sit down with the child and tell them, look, this is not a toy. You know, like my oldest daughter, they both know, both of my daughters know that you treat all guns like they're loaded, even if you've watched a person unload them. You know, fingers off the trigger. Never point the gun at anybody, ever. You know, guns are tools, not toys, and all that. Like, so when I'm cleaning them, you know, I'll break it down, and I'll show them what I'm doing, and I'll explain to them what I'm doing, and I'll answer any question they have, because I'd rather have them have the knowledge than the curiosity that could possibly get them hurt.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Plus I keep, you know, the trigger locks on everything. You know, I got the barrel locks, and I mean, it's kind of redundancy after redundancy. That's why I like my big axe now, because now I don't have to worry about taking all these locks off. If someone comes in the house, I'm just going to hit them with a war hammer.
Perfect.
So I know you did mention to me before we actually talked about this that your kids like to shoot bows,
Yes.
and from what you said, they're actually pretty good at it.
Yeah. Evelyn Evelyn's getting better. Every single time we go, she gets better and better. And that actually started as a joke, believe it or not, getting on the bows. And Evelyn had seen a Disney movie where the character was pretty dominant with a bow, and then she saw the Hunger Games, and so she was just kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna get good with it. And she's gotten very good with it. She's getting better and better. Riley, she doesn't really care. My youngest doesn't really care. She'd rather throw the arrow at an object. Well, it's still effective in some way. So
Semi-effective.
So how good's the aim? Like, what are we talking about, like distance wise from the target?
right now about 30 feet, and she's gonna hit the target. Usually then I don't have her aim at anything smaller than 6 inches, but she'll hit it for about 30, 35 feet.
All right.
That's better than I've ever been, and I was a Boy Scout.
Now for those adults listening to us who hear that thinking, oh, big deal. How old is your kid when she's doing that?
We started her off when she was 5. She's 8 now.
She's 8 now, hitting a target at 35 feet away.
Yeah, she was hitting the target the first time she ever got with a bow, like matched up with a bow, and her ability to use.
And Joey, how old are you?
I am 25.
So how does that make you feel?
I mean, I've never been gifted in that area.
Yeah, that's why I usually say I'm not good at it either. It's like, yeah, I could do that, but
Right.
I got something else to do.
Well, see, where the youngest lacks the skills to put an arrow on target, I actually made the mistake of being like, oh, you should see. I have a vast collection of small bladed weapons, and I let her handle. I have a 15th century Viking axe replica, big blade. And I made the mistake of being like, "Oh, you like that? You can have it." It just stays in the collection. But every once in a while, I'll let her out in the backyard where she can, attack stumps and the firewood with it. And for being 6, I feel pretty confident that if I was to put her into a room with zombies, she would come out on top. She's definitely got berserker blood.
Perfect.
So zombie apocalypse. Okay, you're sitting here. It's happened. What is in your survival kit,
My survival kit?
or what the recommended survival kit?
My go-to kit has been modified. I think you and Jennifer have actually had this conversation one time when you were at my house about the level of money and time I have put into my kits, and I change them all the time. I'll get bored. Like this morning, I got bored. I was thinking about it, and I ran downstairs in the basement. I just started throwing more stuff together in a different pack and rearranging it. It just what I do. Like my EDC, my everyday carry, has changed dramatically since I started a new job last year. I don't have to carry all that stuff because most of the stuff for my job is what I would carry daily. But my go-to kit, involves first aid kit. Then I've got hold on, I got a list of everything. I made a list for you actually today, or what I've got in my kit. I broke it down because I am awesome like that. I've got everything in my kit. I got a first aid kit, wool blanket. I got the fire starters. I got battery Zippos. The steel wool, magnifying glass.
Steel wool for what?
Well, it's a way to start a fire. You put the battery on the steel wool, like you make the steel wool a conductor, and essentially it'll just get so hot that it starts a fire.
Okay.
Yep.
It's actually a really good way to start fire if you have an accelerant and you're in inclement weather. The big rule I have is 1 is none, 2 is 1. So I try to keep multiple ways of doing things. I carry a small pot, or it's actually a large tin cup, something that I could boil water in. But I also have a life straw. I have the iodine tablets. I carry crunched up charcoal so I can make a filter with bandana or something, or God forbid, one of my socks. Because I don't know if I want to drink that kind of water, even if I'm going to die.
Yeah, you might risk dysentery over that.
Yeah, not really worth that.
Yeah.
But we live in a really crappy area where Mother Nature can't make up its mind. It's been a great spring so far this winter.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I extra socks, layers of clothing that I could do. I got emergency shelters, keep MREs, freeze dried foods. I got the energy bars that they put on those rafts when the boat goes down, and they give you like 28,000 calorie bar that should last you for like 2 weeks or something like that. Unfortunately, we live in Illinois, so I don't really carry anything other than my pocket knife with me. Even though concealed carry is legal, I've never encountered a situation where I've needed it, so I've been slow to get that.
Yep.
But if I'm trying to get home in like a Z-Poc, or if I'm trying to go somewhere, of course I would have my sidearm and my main battle rifle. And definitely a big axe. I don't know why, I just love axes. I have a ton of swords, but I just love axes. Probably because you can throw them.
I like that. I also like you don't need as much skill with an axe, I don't think.
Well, I mean, you still need like hand-eye coordination with them, but yeah, it's exactly it. Their axes are kind of like the shotgun of the bladed world, point and swing.
Yep, that's what I like about them. I'm also a big fan of like a spiked mace or a warhammer.
The blunt objects, those are blunt force trauma is really a hell of a way to go. And think about it this way: if someone was like body armor is pretty prevalent right now. A lot of the tacky cool people are like, oh man, I've got level 5 ballistic plates, and I've got the stab resistant cloth and all the puncture resistant clothing. Well, that's awesome. I just hit you in the head with an 11-pound sledgehammer. You just spent like $5,000 on all that, and I killed you anyways.
Right. It's like I know it's a little off topic, but it's like Batman's uniform, like in the Dark Knight when he gets that crazy armor and then he leaves his mouth uncovered, and it's just like someone could just shoot you right in the mouth and you're dead.
Right. I mean,
like no amount of talking through your throat is gonna stop a bullet.
Well, thankfully for him, in those movies they have really crappy aim.
Right.
He's never met a 2-tour Marine that could shoot him in the mouth from 75 yards away with a 9mm. So it would be a completely different if it was realistic.
Right.
That's exactly it. If it was realistic, yeah. Goodbye, Batman. I don't really like Batman anyways. The Hulk is way better.
Agreed.
All right. Well, see, I like you a lot now.
You can be part of his group when the apocalypse happens.
Excellent. I might need to be. My backup plan is a distance away from here. So.
Well, see, I actually had somebody tell me the other day, and I actually have it happen to be quite often where people are like, "Oh, well, you prepare for this, so when it happens, I'm just gonna come steal stuff from you." First off, good luck. I have a 308 that says you're dead about 1.5 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
If you happen to be really stealthy, well, that's cool because I have a German Shepherd that'll hear you.
Right.
So, be my guest. And then when you get here, it's going to be hell on earth for you because there'll be about 4 combat vet Marines, couple Army vets. It's how you choose. If you think you can, you might as well bring a lot of friends. You could try.
Yeah, no, I'm not coming to steal stuff, but like if you need a chaplain, I'm your guy.
Actually, see, when you really like break it down, like on people who you'd want in your group, like a lot of things that are overlooked by a lot of people are, what that person would bring to the table. And like the thing, like I'm gonna bring up Walking Dead here. Father Gabriel is the biggest waste of space on that show.
I haven't
It'd
even
be
watched
one
it this
thing. I
season,
would-
and I agree with you.
See, I would totally bring him aboard if he was a conversationalist. I have met some Jesuit priests that are probably the most intelligent people I've ever met in my entire life. They can hold a conversation about anything, and they don't just have to straight back to religion or theology. They can hold a conversation in any facet that you could think of. See, that would be useful to me because if I'm slaving away trying to protect our group, let's say we found like a safe haven, and so we're doing regular guard shifts, and we're doing shifts in like a garden, and we're trying to bring back some semblance of society. Conversation would be one of those luxuries I'd want to have. I'd want to have somebody intelligent enough around that could keep me thinking. I'm not a very intelligent person in my own mind. Like, I don't think I'm very intelligent, so I like to surround myself with people that are far more intelligent than me, so I can constantly keep pushing myself, like, mentally.
Absolutely.
So that would, if back to it, if he was like one of those people, like he had an opinion that was worth a crap, that to me he would be worth his weight. But he is so useless and he is such a coward that it's
Yeah.
just kind of like strap him to somebody at like a meat shield and go do what you need to do.
That is about right with Father Gabriel.
Yeah, I called that from the get go when they first found him. I was like, yeah, that dude's useless. Help me, I'm stuck on a rock. Okay. How'd you make it this far? I'm going to take your stuff and leave you on this rock.
Joey, I can see you being one of those guys, kind of resembling the preacher from Mel Gibson's movie, The Patriot.
Yeah, I could do that.
You got the guy who's sitting there, he's doing the service and everything, and then Heath Ledger will run in, do a little speech, round up the town, and then you're there like, yeah, well, sometimes you gotta defend your flock against the wolves,
Yep.
See, that's awesome. That I can absolutely respect. I'm as far as like my group goes, I am not a nice guy. Like, I wouldn't be like Rick. I would be like, all right, I don't know you. It'd be different if you showed up with somebody I knew and you were like, oh, the person I trust vouches for you. All right, well, I'd let you in on like probationary kind of thing. But the whole Z-Poc SHTF like group, like it's a huge group. There's a lot of people, a lot of tacky cool people, there's a lot of facets to the whole zombie apocalypse thing, like the survival issue. Like, there's a lot of the tacky cool people,
Yep.
They spend a lot of money on tactical equipment, but they've spent 10 grand on it, but they don't train with it, they don't use it. They're essentially the guy that gets off work at the office and sits on the boob tube all night. They don't actually use their equipment. They're just kind of like, oh, well, I have it. Well, having it and using it are two different things. That's why I like to call it the tacky cool, because they get it because they think that it makes them look cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And then you actually have people that, like, veterans that that actually get out of service, and they start companies, security companies. They do drill, they do practice, and they keep their warrior skills honed. I mean, that's a completely different ballpark, though. And those guys are very, very scary. Like, if you ever sit down and talk to them, they're just kind of like, because I never served, they'd be like, yeah, you're a civilian, I don't really give a crap. Even with 10 years of private security background, breacher training, crowd control, gang affiliate or gang identification, and all these, like, I would still be on the outside compared to these guys, because they're just insane. Like, they're trained, they're motivated, they're scared people.
That's good to know. I didn't realize. I mean, I think on some level I realized that there were these tiers of people, but I'd never noticed before, I guess. So,
Well, in my opinion, they like to call themselves the 3%ers. They're not really zombie like prepping. They are like, they would be the people you'd want as your friend in a Z-Poc situation.
right.
I mean, they train for other reasons, but we all have our different reasons, but we'd all still be in the same category of like zombie hunter, I guess would be the way to put it.
Gotcha.
Well, now with zombies and everything, is it more of you're looking at offense or defense? Or a mix of both.
See, that's a great question because if you really look at it, like look at the human experience, it has been my experience my whole life. Individual people are smart. Groups of people are remedial and absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
My crowd control training, like I did that for 6 years, maybe 7,
Mm-hmm.
and it's you can usually talk sense into this is kind of like the higher end of it, but like 10 people, you could probably talk sense into about 10 people, or at least keep them balanced.
Gotcha.
But you have 25 people, and you have 25 people that are scared, they're hungry, they're thirsty, they're looking for protection. You are not going to control it. So essentially, a zombie, you throw a flesh-eating zombie in there, and you have a group of people that are can no longer go to Walmart to get their food. They can't go to their sink anymore and get water.
Right.
And they can't defend themselves. You're looking at a whole host of problems, and if they're gonna see like your neighbor, like if your neighbor has any sort of like firearms training or any ability to make it look like he's holding his own, he's gonna get overrun by a bunch of people that have no clue what they're doing, have no idea where to begin to defend themselves or provide for themselves. So you have so many different things that you would have to play the field offensively and defensively the entire time.
Makes sense.
Like, I mean, one of the problems, go back to The Walking Dead, one of the problems with their little safe haven they weren't pushing the boundaries. They didn't have listening posts out. They weren't running patrols. Now this is something a veteran, a combat vet would see, because they do that when they fortify a position and when they have a base. Then they start running patrols, they start running missions, listening missions, ambushes. And they're 10, 15 miles away from the base. They're where somebody who wanted to hurt you would be, or would be, where they would be trying to find a safe haven that was close enough that if they wanted to hit and run your safe haven, that it would be far enough that if they fell back, it would be hard to go after them, but it'd be far enough that you would feel safe that they wouldn't hit you again.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that made sense. Sorry.
No, yeah, that was excellent. I'm just kind of like taking notes.
So let's say it happens tomorrow. And,
I'm not going to work. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to work.
well, I don't want you to give away any secrets that you may be keeping for yourself, but if it happens tomorrow, where do you plan on going, and how many people you plan on being there with?
That's actually a really, really good question. Unfortunately, I would probably stay in place in this current time frame, which would, put me and the family on a 30-day or less ticket. But ideally, if I had the money, I would actually have a cabin in a remote place, and I would attempt to get there.
Well, so being where you live, it's not exactly city, but it is more populated.
Yeah.
Than where I live. Wouldn't it be more logical for you to head south towards me than staying where you're at?
It would, but also at the same time, even though, I came from a small town where everyone knew each other, if I was to like go back to that kind of situation, I'd be an outsider. And it doesn't matter what I brought to the table, I'd still be an outsider.
It's a fucking apocalypse, man. Who gives a shit?
Everybody.
I'm talking about your defense. I mean, wouldn't it be like, finding an abandoned barn out in the middle of nowhere? I mean, wouldn't that be the best place to go to?
Well, see, that's weird too, because my wife has mixed connective tissue disorder. causes her veins to collapse, and her body can't regulate her internal temperature. So she tends to get very, very cold. I've seen her wearing an all-black hoodie on a beach when it was 90 degrees, and her still shivering, saying she was cold. So a barn would probably not be an ideal situation for us as a family group.
Okay. So,
But my team really involves, like, my second in command would definitely be my oldest daughter, because she listens well, and she has the mindset where, like, she thinks about things in steps. Like, she'll see the grand picture, she'll see what she wants and how to get there, and then she'll follow the steps to get where she wants to be.
It's an excellent skill to have, regardless of Z-Poc.
Yeah. Like I said, like we like to play like these little games where it's bonding time, but it's really if anything ever happened, she'd be able to be like, oh well, I was playing around this one time with my dad, and he said if something like this happened, we should do this. Well, let's do that, and when it works out, she'll be like, well, now, that's what I'm going to do from now on.
Yep.
okay.
My youngest one is more of, let's destroy everything, deny it when it comes back to us, and move forward. Which, in its own right, is also a good skill to have, I guess.
Perfect. So what's your vehicle of choice then as far as zombie apocalypse?
Man, you have to go. You are going to have a lot of angry listeners when I say my piece on that. Jeeps, man, flat out. I mean, they won World War for us.
You won't go.
They're easy to maintain, especially if we look back. Like, if we go and we step back into a mechanical time, like, mindset, like, think like, maintenance, ease of repair, and like the skill you would need to repair. The Jeep came with the 4.0 motor for a long time. It came in the Wrangler, it came in the Cherokee. Mm-hmm. It's just such a great motor. I mean, I've had 3 of them, and each of them have reached over 300,000 miles. And
That's really impressive.
The only reason they didn't go any further is because the Jeep rusted out around the motor and the drivetrain. So my choice is always going to be a Jeep. They're small. You're not going to fit a lot. It'd be different. Like let's say you took a Dodge Ram, full-size Dodge Ram. You'd have the payload capacity and everything, but it's heavy. With a Jeep, if I was to unload a Jeep, like let's say I had gotten stuck and I unloaded the Jeep, I could use a 2,000-pound come-along with, 40 feet of chain, and I would literally be able to pull out, my Jeep.
Who's got motor sounds that were perfect right there?
Sorry, that's my work phone.
Oh no, that was epic. That really punctuated what you were saying as you were saying it.
So looking at then, you wouldn't go with a truck or a Hummer, anything with more bulk to it?
No. Well, see, one of my many hobbies is off-roading. I really, really enjoy trail riding, rock crawling, mudding, that kind of stuff. And I found that some of the coolest locations you could get to for like camping or hunting, you need to go down, like an ATV path. Well, the Jeeps have the wheelbase to get up an ATV path or, somewhere unpaved. Now you look at, compare your Dodge Ram to my Jeep, man. My Jeep's going to go further places than your truck because of the wheelbase and the lightness and, just that. Although yours would be able to carry more. So, I mean, I'll always endorse the Jeep, but to answer your question, but the best way to do it is if your group has multiple vehicles. I would suggest, most of them be Jeeps, but you definitely need a pickup truck or, a cargo van, something that, you could stash a lot of stuff in, and basically that would carry all your stuff. And then, your scout vehicles, your Jeeps, could circle in around it to protect it.
I got you. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. I get what you're saying about the Jeep. I don't know, man. I think I'm more focused on loving my Dodge Ram for that kind of situation, you know?
Well, I mean, there are definite perks to your Dodge Ram. Like, you could ram my Jeep going 70. You're gonna drive away, and I'm probably gonna be dead.
Yeah.
But as far as what my plans would be, my plan would be, like back to the original, the first question you asked. If I was going to bug out and find another location, whatever it was, I would have to use essentially a goat path to get to where I want to go. My Jeep could do that because of the wheelbase, the lightness, and its four-wheel drive ability. Your Ram probably wouldn't fit up one of those paths, and the length of it, would really inhibit the ability to articulate over obstacles. So,
I got you.
all situational, my personal opinion, Jeep. But it's all on where you're gonna go, what you're gonna do, and your personal preference.
I got you.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. And I could definitely see, especially if you've got a distance to go, or, if you're going to keep on the move, that definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yep. And a big bulky H1 Hummer, as cool as they are, I mean, you gotta admit, everybody has wanted one at one point in time in their life. They're awesome. But I am not going to try and put gas in one of those things.
Right. That would cost a lot of money.
Well, at that time, I mean, gas, the cost of gas is irrelevant, right?
Yeah, but think about it this way. You come across, let's just say you have the original 6.3 multi diesel motor in it. And, for craps and giggles, we're going to move from, say, Joliet to Champaign. That's about 113 or 118 miles. All right. Your Hummer's got a quarter tank of gas. You literally have to stop at every abandoned vehicle you find and try and siphon gas out of it just to be able to move the Humvee. Unless, somebody crashed their Boeing 747 and somehow the whole tank didn't light up on fire and you can just pillage from that. I don't really see it being a practical thing to have to siphon gas at every chance you got. You wouldn't get very far. You'd be very slow moving, and God forbid somebody was chasing you. I don't know. Jeep's my way.
Or even just having to stop and fight people to siphon stuff from their tanks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. It actually, well, here's the thing. Okay, first off, I don't want to cut it short, but we're coming close to the end of this. So, the one thing I definitely want to do is I want to come back and revisit this in a future episode.
Okay.
Can we all agree on that?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, definitely.
All right, cool. So we're gonna call this part one of our conversation because there's so much more we could talk about and so much more I want to talk about. One thing, actually, two things I want to do before you go, Graham. There's a website or a page that you said people could go to. You want to tell us what that is?
Well, on Facebook, my favorite zombie group is Zombie World. One of the admins on there is a personal friend of mine. He's a good guy. He's actually from the UK. He's a good guy. It's a private group, so you have to request it. But yeah, I would suggest Zombie World, man. If you're looking for gear, I could go all day with that.
Name your top two for gear.
Top two for gear. Kelty, as far as like tents and like hiking stuff.
How do I spell that?
Kelty.
Okay, so basically the way I thought I was going to spell it.
Yeah, Kelty's got a backpack called the Red Wing, which is the best, in my opinion, the best civilian pack you could get. They also make They make great tents and like tarps and that kind of thing. I have a Jonah tarp from them, so I really like. And I also have a 2-person backpack tent from them. I like. And the other one, I honestly would have to go with like 511 Tactical. As far as I love their pants and I like their concealed carry vest, even though I don't concealed carry. So
Excellent. I will definitely link to those in the show notes.
Perfect.
And we'll have to get into some other ones next time we have you.
yeah,
Absolutely.
no problem.
And the other thing I want to do before I get you off, get you off. Oh, perfect.
Wow.
One thing I do before you leave our show tonight.
Okay.
I want us to do something for next time we do this. I'm going to give you 5 things I want you to think about for the next show, and I want us all to share. I want us all to do this.
Okay.
I want each of us to think of one location within the United States that you would travel to instead of base. I want a town and a state, and I want to know why. Okay?
Okay.
I want a vehicle of choice, which Graham obviously gave us our Jeep, but I want a vehicle of choice. I want a certain Jeep. I want one weapon. You get one weapon, and that's it.
Don't do that to me.
Yeah.
Don't do that to me at all.
You get one weapon. Keep in mind, if it's a gun, infinite ammo, but you get one weapon. How many people are you willing to have in your colony, in your group that you are, setting a base with? And the biggest obstacle you think you'll face by doing this? Sound fair? Sound like fun?
Yeah, I'm into that.
Perfect. So I'll remind you guys what it is exactly, but yeah, I think that'll be some fun we do. And then next time whenever we do part 2, which it should be the beginning of January, it shouldn't be that far away. We'll do this. We'll talk about some movies. We'll finish up the survival pack ideas and stuff like that, and then we'll talk some TV shows and stuff like that too.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Sounds like a plan.
By then, I might be caught up on The Walking Dead, so.
By then, I still wouldn't be watching The Walking Dead. But
It's so
I stopped
good,
on
though.
Season 2.
no.
Missing out.
Yeah.
If you watch Fear the Walking Dead, you've got the concept of Walking Dead.
I watch neither because here's the thing. I don't hate the concept of zombies. I hate how many different things there are for zombies nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
Between the movies, the TV shows, so that there's just so much, and it's a headache just to keep up with everything. But I like the concept of zombies. I like the concept of the survival aspect in case of a zombie apocalypse. But there's so much zombie stuff out there. It becomes like, okay, now what do you really want to enjoy? You want to enjoy the classic movies where things are, mystical voodoo, or you want 28 Days Later. What's that new movie coming out next year? There's a series. The final one's coming out. Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Final chapter.
So many different ones. Dawn of the Dead. I mean, I think my favorite zombie movie is Zombieland.
That's a good one.
Yeah, well, just because of the large truck of snowballs, because I'm a huge snowball fan. But
You mean where they had the box of Twinkies in the middle of it that he missed? Yeah.
did they really?
Yeah. They're all over that movie. All you gotta do is just look, and it's like, why doesn't he just turn around right now?
We'll talk more about that then when we get into part 2 of this show.
Okay.
I do appreciate you coming on, Graham. I had a lot.
Thanks for having me.
All right, I'll talk to you later, brother.
All right, man. Take it easy, guys.
Yeah, you
Later.
too. Thank you.
That was fun.
That was
Yeah.
amazing. I
It
don't.
was very informational.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't wait to do part 2 of this. I don't want to foreshadow too much, but I believe if we were to guess, part 2 would end up being was it January 11th actually. So for those of you who want to listen to part 2 of this, which I know you're going to because you love hearing us, January 11th we'll be doing the second part of this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. I'm excited. Dude, like from now on. I mean, like we have so many things set up for our shows coming up. I can't wait to keep moving forward with them, especially number 9. Oh man, I'm excited. Joey,
Yes, sir.
every Wednesday people can find you at This Freakin' Show, but where can they find you on Saturdays?
Saturday mornings, you can find me over on the Geekcast Live podcast at geekcastlivepodcast.com/podcast. And soon, you'll be able to find me at geekcastlive.ninja.
Ooh, changing it up.
So stay tuned.
Wait, what's .ninja?
It's a new domain that we've acquired, apparently. Because it's easier to say than geekcastlivepodcast.com/podcast.
I like it.
Yeah. So, don't know when that's going to happen, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah, definitely. And for you guys that don't know, as of right now, we are currently holding a contest for our show. It ends on the 26th, correct, guys?
That's right.
Yes, sir.
It ends the 26th. And some of you may be wondering what exactly this contest is. Well, we are having a contest to have a logo design for our show. Currently, we have one right now. It's a red shirt with a tie. But we kind of feel that's kind of generic, and we kind of want to spice it up and make something our own. So if you guys have any ideas, good drawers, computer art styles, you can submit them. We have multiple locations you can submit. You can find them on our site in our description. And I know we'll also plug them. But yeah, feel free to submit your entries and we'll judge them. And there will be a prize given out to the person of choice that we pick.
Indeed.
That's correct. Yeah, you could submit all your designs, pictures to our website, This Freakin' Show, or I'm not sorry, our website, our email at thisfreakinshow@yahoo.com. Put them on our Facebook, our Instagram. Any designs will do. It's not just one design. It's as many designs as you want to submit. We'll go into midnight on the 26th. At that point, we'll reveal it on Wednesday's podcast, the following Wednesday's podcast, and announce the winner. I think next week I may actually finally decide on what the prize is going to be. I'll run by you guys, see if you guys agree with it. I think, Joey, you actually had the idea for it that I kind of like. And you can catch us on Facebook at This Freakin' Show. You can look for us on Twitter at This Freakin' Show. You can catch us on Instagram at This Freakin' Show. Go to our website, thisfreakinshow.com, where you can find this podcast as well as the other podcasts from previous. As always, I am Travis.
I'm Awkward Colin.
And I'm Geekcast Joe.
Thanks for listening to This Freakin' Show. I'm out.